Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about 529 plans and Roth IRAs and some things that I think are really exciting. But first, I just wanted to say that after my first Secure Act 2.0 video, I received some great calls and emails and feedback that helped me realize that not everyone is working with a firm or an advisor that does detailed planning. So I realize that I do a bit take for granted that most of you know about things that I cover. So for example, I assume everybody watching this knows that the contribution limits on IRAs and Roth accounts and 401ks were raised. But I also realized in talking to a lot of people that there may be a few videos needed on the original 2019 Secure Act, and I might be doing those next. So please keep sending feedback and letting us know what you're looking for because it helps guide content. Okay, so for today, I'm going to talk about 529 plans and Roth IRAs. And again, this video does assume that you know some of the basics, but I have briefly touched on some elements for those of you who may need more background data. Okay. So Secure Act 2.0 included something that I would consider a very interesting change for 529 plans. And this is high up on the list of things to consider. But I have to warn you that the government didn't make it simple. In fact, it's a little bit complicated. And there are quite a few rules that you need to know, okay? But if you follow the rules, I think this could be pretty powerful. So let me explain for a moment the similarities and differences between a Roth IRA and a 529 plan. In a Roth IRA, you as the investor are putting after-tax monies into an account, which you then invest for long-term growth. All the earnings are growing tax-deferred. And when you later take the distribution, all the distributions that you take out will come out tax-free, assuming you followed the Roth IRA rules, which I'm not going to cover today. Okay, for many investors, a Roth IRA is very powerful. And if you leave a Roth IRA behind and you don't spend it all and you leave it to a beneficiary or to children, all the distributions that they take are income tax free as well. Okay, a 529 plan is an investment account specifically intended for educational use, educational expenses. Like a Roth IRA, it is funded with after-tax money. And like a Roth IRA, earnings continue to accrue or grow tax deferred. Only distributions made to cover specific educational expenses come out tax-free. So you can see that the Roth and the 529 have several similarities. The huge difference, of course, is that distributions from a Roth IRA are tax-free no matter what you use the funds for. But in a 529, your use of the funds is definitely restricted to educational expenses. Otherwise, you would not only face a tax consequence, but there are also penalties. Okay, some planning considerations when you're putting together or thinking about a 529 is what happens if my kid or grandkid gets a scholarship? What if he or she doesn't use up all of the money in their 529? What happens if they decide not to go to college? What if I decide to disinherit them later in life? That happens, unfortunately. Okay, so one thing you can do, which I found out a lot of people don't know, is you can change the beneficiary of the plan. And you can make that beneficiary of that 529 plan a sibling or other permissible family member, okay? That's not a new rule. Now, starting in 2024, what Secure Act 2.0 allows is something very interesting. If the 529 plan has been in place for at least 15 years, you can transfer up to $35,000 to that same beneficiary's Roth IRA. So again, it has to be the same person who the 529 was for. But let me say that again, because I was telling this to a client the other day and I had to repeat it, I think 3 times. So this fully sinks in. Once the 529 plan has been in place for 15 years, you can transfer up to a lifetime maximum of $35,000 into that same beneficiary's Roth IRA account. So here's an example. Let's just say at the time that a child was born, you opened their 529, or you made a meaningful gift to their 529, okay? Later, when the child turns 16 and the account has been in existence for over 15 years, the account's funds could begin to be moved to a Roth IRA for the child's benefit. The amount you can move each year is limited to whatever the maximum IRA contribution limit is for that year. So let's use 2023, okay? For 2023's tax year, the IRA contribution limit for anybody under 50 is $6,500. Now, however, if you and I were going to make a $6,500 contribution to an IRA or a Roth IRA, we would need to have that much income, $6,500, to make that contribution. Secure 2.0 allows the 529 transfer to the Roth in whatever that IRA limit amount is for the year, regardless of whether the child has any earned income. That's a big deal. So if we used $6,500 for today's example as the annual maximum limit, it would mean that it would take about 6 years for $35,000 to be moved from the 529 to the Roth IRA. And again, no income would be required to make that transfer. So I believe with proper investment planning and continued annual transfers until that $35,000 is reached, that child's Roth IRA balance at age 65 could easily approach or even exceed $1 million. Okay, now before you run off and transfer any unused 529 plans to a Roth IRA, there's some restrictions that I have to talk about. And I can't cover everything here, but these are the main ones. The Roth IRA that is receiving the funds must be in the same name as the current beneficiary of the 529 plan. Okay, as I said earlier, the maximum lifetime amount that can be moved from a 529 to a Roth IRA is $35,000. Now, the 529 plan must have been maintained for 15 years or longer. And then any contributions to the 529 plan that have been made within the last 5 years, including any earnings on those last 5 years of contributions, are not eligible to be moved to that Roth IRA. So it would be previous monies, okay? The annual limit for how much can be moved from the 529 plan to the Roth IRA is the usual IRA contribution limit for that year. But this means that they're going to include any other monies you've put into a regular or traditional IRA in that person's name, which just means that there's no doubling up of funds. You can't put $6,500 into an IRA and $6,500 from the 529 into the Roth. Okay, so I believe that most people are going to use this new ability to transfer funds from a 529 to a Roth starting in 2024 for its congressionally intended purpose, which is allowing money that was previously earmarked for education to be repurposed as retirement savings in the event that the funds are not needed or not used up, okay, for education. However, for a small cross-section of higher net worth families, this new technique could be used to help children or grandchildren or loved ones get a jump start on their retirement plans and goals. I have seen, things change. I've seen clients do really, really well and find it very meaningful or rewarding to start gifting while they're alive. I've seen a fulfillment and a pleasure that I don't think people are likely to experience if they wait to leave everything to when they've passed. So the ink is still drying on this new law, and we need to receive more guidance from the IRS or Congress on some of the details. But based on reading the law as it's written now, there are several potential financial planning opportunities to consider, such as a 529 plan allows a change of beneficiary to another family member, which means theoretically you could change the beneficiary back to yourself and then transfer the funds into your own Roth IRA. So let's just use that datum and then think of an example with these new laws and rules, okay? Let's say you aggressively funded a child's 529 plan. And it was either your kid or it was a grandkid or a niece or a nephew or a loved one. And they ended up with a very large balance in their 529 plan, which I've seen many times. And you maybe were expecting them to go to Harvard or Yale, and they ended up going to a different college, or they went to a community college, and the cost was much less. Well, in this scenario, there might be, or usually is, a lot more than $35,000, okay, in that 529. Well, theoretically, you could move $35,000 over a few years to their Roth IRA. Well, not theoretically, you absolutely could, but theoretically, you could potentially execute after that $35,000 has been moved, a beneficiary change, and move another $35,000 to another beneficiary's Roth IRA over the next 6 years, right? And if there are still more funds available, you could change the beneficiary back to yourself or another family member, and again, transfer more money into a Roth IRA. But again, we're waiting for a little bit more direction on details here. But this new feature of Secure Act 2.0 has its merits. There are things that you should think of before you finish my video and go out and start aggressively funding a 529 plan for a child or a grandchild. There's other planning considerations that are very personal to each client or each family that I discuss with my clients, and I'm happy to discuss with you. But what I've covered here are things that any advisor should be talking to their clients about. So as always, if you have questions or you need help or you would like to provide some feedback of other videos that would be helpful, please reach out to us. We look forward to hearing from you.